G'day. Welcome to my little channel today. Now, first of all, we've hit 500 subscribers. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for everyone who has subscribed and showing little faith in what I do. Now, today I'm bringing you something slightly different. What I'm showing you here, and this is in normal time, I've grabbed a die, and what I wanted to do is create a stamp with it. So I've cut two and I've stacked them on top of each other, glued them together, and then I've just glued that onto there, and then I've glued it onto some craft foam, and the craft foam I've just added to my stamping block. And with that, so you can see here, I just peel that off, stick it on. It peels right back off when you're finished. I wouldn't leave it on there for indefinitely, but this is an easy way to use your die and get a stamp out of, so you can create extra looks. So not only do you get your die going one way, but if you turn it over, it actually gives you a different looking impression because it's kind of scalloped out. So I've got the stamp on one side is going the true way of the die, and on the other side I flipped it over so I can have the leaves going two different directions. Now what I'm using here are my distress inks. Now I use Bundled Sage. I think I use that first. Bundled Sage, then Shabby Shutters, and Forest Moss. That's the three colours I'm using on this layout. Now you can see I'm just playing on some scrap here at the moment, but I've left this process in so that you know how I go about getting these results and figuring. This is how I sort of figure it out in my head. I figure, you know what? I've outlaid the money. Excuse me. I've outlaid the money for the die, so why not see if I can't use it for something extra? So I created the die. This is me procrastinating over colours, but I've left this in real time so you can see that. I know this video is, before we go any further, this video is a little bit longer than I usually do, and after this bit I do speed it up 4 times. But I wanted to leave this in real time so you could see how I did it. Now, this is where I chose the Forest Moss because I wanted two really opposite end of the spectrum greens, if that makes sense. So I've just had a bee in my bonnet about sorry, I'm just adjusting my microphone. Yeah, I wanted the green, so I wanted a really dark green, but I didn't want to sort of go the salvage patina or the twisted citron. I didn't want to go that direction. I wanted to keep it quite earthy. So that's why I ended up using this one. And this is where I'm just trying to see how many stamps I can get off each inking, because all I've done this with is just plain 60-pound cardstock, 80-pound flat cardstock. So there's no texture in it at all because I wanted it to try and be as flat as possible. Sorry, needed a drink. Okay, so I'm still playing here. This bit's nearly finished, but I just wanted to show you the difference in the stamps. At this point, I'm happy with the result that I'm getting. So this is where I go, right, move on to the real deal. So I'm doing my usual 12 by 12 layout. Anyone that's been here for a little bit, I actually use Creative Memories albums. Therefore, my pages are 11.5 by 12. That's just the albums that I've got at the moment, and I'm using those up before I buy any more. Now, what I've done is I've drawn a line 6 inches up. It's just a guide. There's nothing technical about it. It's just a guide as to how I'm going to see if this works. So what you can see me doing now is I'm using the lighter first, and that frustrated me a bit that I didn't register that the ink was getting, I pressed a bit too hard. So because this isn't a traditional stamp, the foam is going to give a little bit. So learn from my mistake and don't press quite as hard. Sort of put it onto the paper, add a little bit of pressure, but just leave it sit there for a second, because I'm using distress inks, okay? They're not like, they're good, but they're not what I would normally use for a stamp. Like I would use a VersaFine or something like that that gives you a really crisp image, but that's not what I'm aiming to do here. So if you can see, currently my leaves are all going a certain direction, right? Now it's at this point that I go, okay, I'm going to turn the leaves around, because I kind of wanted, how do I explain this? I wanted the leaves at the bottom, I wanted them to curve sort of, not to a point, but if you know what I mean, like I wanted to create more of an arrow sort of thing. So the ones on the right side were sort of curving towards the middle, and the ones on the left were curving towards the middle, if that makes sense. So this is why I turned my stamp over. Now I ended up, when I turned it over, what I noticed, and I actually really liked it. So if you want to give this technique a try, don't be put off by this. I actually, when I turned the die over, and if you have just a regular die cutting machine, you'll notice that you've got a positive side and a negative side as to where it's cut. Now, what that actually did with this particular die, which is a uniquely creative die, and it's called Modern Stems. Now, what it actually did is it gave me a sort of a double stamp look. I loved it. It literally makes it look like I've got two completely different stamps, and then by using different colors, it just keeps layering up. So stick with me. I know this is a bit of a process, but what I wanted to show, and this is a little thing I've been going through over the past probably 6 weeks. I'm trying to think of things that, and I've got a million ideas in my head, but I'm trying to think of ways that you can buy one particular thing, for example, the die, and how many different applications can you use that one die for? Sure, you can buy a stamp, absolutely. And if that's what you're into, go for it. I am too. But I just wanted to have a play and just show you guys that, you know what, we can get a lot more out of our inks and our dyes and etc. So now, what am I doing? Okay, so at this point, so I've just put the stamp to the side now for a little bit. Now what I wanted to do is, so I've used the Forest Moss, I've used the Shabby Shutters. Shabby Shutters is what I'm about to use. The bundled sage is, now this is me playing before I do it on my real one. I thought it would work, and it did. So see now, just by simply colouring in, and it worked perfectly, so I'm just going to continue with it. I am just, of course, I've sped this up 4 times, okay? So I'm not painting it this quickly, but I'm using Shabby Shutters Distress Ink, and I'm just adding some water to it and using it like a watercolour. What I'm doing is I'm not colouring them all in, okay? I'm just picking some and colouring them in and seeing how that looks. It just gives you more depth with your die. So you've got the lighter ones, which are in the bundled sage. You've got the darker ones in the forest moss. Now you've got the darker ones that are coloured in. And wait, I I go one step further with this, and I absolutely love how it turned out. So once I go around and I do this colouring in, I have to be honest, this is, I'm in love with how this turns out. This page is so nice. Very, excuse me, it's very neutral toned, but it works. It totally works. Now, I'm seriously considering giving this a go in some, because I've been doing a lot of bright pages lately. I've done, last week I did quite a few really bright pages, rainbows, all that sort of thing. And I'm in a bit of a today, tomorrow, that sort of, at the moment I'm kind of in that neutral tones. So earthy tones. So this is why I thought I'm going to give this a go, because this is something I wanted to do. Now I'm scrapbooking photos of my daughter catching some footballs. Like they were playing footballs out the front. My eldest daughter was in football team at school, and of course little sister sees what big sister's doing, so they have to play. So I literally just snapped a few shots of her catching a footy. That's all this is. But it's important to me because my eldest has Asperger's syndrome, and she's very ASD. She's very she doesn't connect easily with others. So, and she can't read others easily. So, as a result, this was a big moment for us. So this definitely needed to be scrapbooked. So now, once I do this, this is where okay, so the other thing I was going to mention, I have done no prep work on this flimsy paper. This is £60 white cardstock that I got from Amazon, and yeah, I didn't prep it. I didn't put gesso on it. I didn't do anything special to it. So, and it's taking this perfectly. It's taking the stamps beautifully. They came out nice and crisp, but it's taking this water. You know what? I think I've said the wrong thing. I actually did bundled sage in the dark leaves. This is Shabby Shutters that I'm using now. I was a step ahead of myself. Sorry, that's my bad. So they're all distress inks. They're not oxides, they're just inks. And so I just used, what I wanted to do was create the darker ones with the darker leaves, and then I came back in with the lighter leaves. And I realized at this point, back up. You didn't practice that, and that is not what you want to do. So just in case I don't put my finger back in that, my brush back in there, I thought I needed to darken that up. Don't stress, that bit's going to be covered with a photo, so I'm not worried about it. And that's what's so forgiving with this sort of layout. You can play, push it to the absolute brink, and it's just about photo placement. Then if you highlight the bits that you like the most. That stem that's sticking up next to the one I'm painting at the moment, I absolutely love that. They turned out so good. So stamping in the forest moss and painted with the bundled sage, it is a gorgeous combination. It looks really, really nice. So yes, this is still sped up 4 times. Okay, so here is where I bring in my border, because we all know Karen's got to have a border. And here's where my 3 photos, so you can't see where I stuffed up. But this is where I introduce the leaves doing one more thing. So I know that's definitely what I want to do. Now, so these are the die cuts. I literally cut while I had my die cutting machine out, which is Spellbinders Platinum 6 is the one I use. And I was going to sit here and paint all these, and then I realised you're going to be here forever. just dip it in there. So that's what I end up doing. Again, these are not prepped in any way. These are not in any way, shape or form. It's just cut out cardstock. That's all it is. So this is where I realise that I can just do it like this and it'll be a lot quicker. And these turn out really nice. So you're thinking to yourself at the moment, I can hear people wanting to click off at this point. Don't. I promise you, stick with it because this looks so good when I'm finished. Because I don't only do the ink on this lot, but after I get some colour on this white cardstock, I come in with an extra process that just makes these pop. So I'm just dragging them through the colour now. I've realised that being specific and pedantic about where the colour goes, it's like watercolour. There is no controlling watercolour. It goes where it wants to go. So, and because I had ink, this is why I'm adding a few extras, because I had the ink there, so I might as well use it, right? And now I just go back across where there is little bits missed. Might as well use up that last little bit of ink that's on there. Why not? Why waste it, right? I know after doing this particular layout, I'm going to do this again and it will be on something else. Splatters. You don't see me doing these very often, but I'm adding some splatters with the, what colour was that? That was Shabby Shutters that I just did that with. So it's not in your face, it's not out there, it's just on there. Okay, so here is where my brain, I'm just using my T-square ruler to hold them down so they don't blow away, just to dry them off a little bit, because there was a little bit of water involved. Okay, and here we go. This is where my brain goes, bingo, got it. This is what I'm going to do. So, see, they look okay on there, yeah? So, it's all the same colours. It's not a stamp, so it's giving it more dimension. Haha. This is where it gets good. Okay, so with these ones that I've coloured, I pulled out my VersaFine embossing ink and I'm embossing these. The colour I'm using, I can't link for you, the embossing powder. Blossie's was a store that we had at Morayfield back in 15, 16 years ago. It's no longer there. So this is probably, it's not straight clear. It's got a little bit of sparkle in it. So if you can find, frankly, I would have just done it clear, but I saw the sparkle and thought that might add just a little bit more zhuzh to it. So what I do is I use one of the boxes that my crafting supply orders turned up in. And the reason I've got that red in the bottom is so my camera can focus. Without it, my camera struggles to focus. So this is where I keep all the sandy grit. I keep it all in here and I'm just making these nice and juicy with the ink pad. I'm pushing the ink pad onto the stamp, the die cut, rather than doing it the other way around. I know I'm getting it on my silicone mat, but you know what? It takes nothing to wipe it off, so it's fine. Okay, so here we go. So here I am creating a drop shadow with stickers. So I've laid out my entire title in black and then I'm moving the letter slightly to the right and slightly up, only just enough so it creates that shadow. I left this in because I've had a few people say to me, I wish I could have the titles that you make on the Cricut, but I don't have a Cricut. This is what I used to always do. These are creative memory stickers, and the reason I love these, and I haven't bought them for years because I've got so many, But see, they come in a pack like this, and you get 3 of them, and look how many numbers and letters you get, both uppercase and lowercase. You can write so much with them because there's so many letters involved. So, but when I put something down, I like it to have, I don't just like sticking things straight down sometimes. I like to make it look different. So that's what I do here. I go through with my black lettering, then I go through with my silver lettering, and it makes it look like there's a shadow, and it's just a straight up letter sticker. That's all it is. So I left this bit in for you because I haven't seen people do this. To be honest, I haven't seen anyone do this. It's something we used to do back in the day. Like, I'm talking back in, I used to do this, well, I did in my wedding album, and that was 2007. And I know I did it before that. So 2005, 2006, something like that. That's when we used to do this. So I figured, why not bring back something that we used to love doing? And yes, it uses up your supplies, but sometimes having it pop, that's what you want. So I was going to add tracing paper to the back of that, mainly because it was just sitting next to me and it was like calling me, Karen, use some of this. And then I realized, no, it needs a bit of black. So because I put black around the outside border and I've got the black in the drop shadow, I wanted to add a little bit more black to it. Even though I was sticking with quite neutral tones, I think it helps bring out the whole look. I think it looks really, I love it. So we're nearly done. So if you've stuck with me all this way, thank you so much. I truly, sincerely appreciate each and every subscriber. I am so excited. This has been something I've tossed up for years, whether I should do. And by having the subscribers and having people suggest my page to other people, or my channel, I should say, it's given me the boost that people do like what I do. So thank you so much. I'm sorry about this huge big pause here. I thought I cut it out and I didn't. It's okay. It's going to stop in a second. 1 second. Maybe 2 seconds. So, okay. I'm back. I actually, at that point, I don't even know what I was doing, but I was looking for something. Okay, so here you can see me just utilizing, I don't know why I put the tape on like that, because that's not even where I ended up. It's okay. Because I used the what's it called? Easy Runner tape. It's in strips. It's very similar to the Creative Memories tape that I used to use years ago. And it's in strips. It's not in blocks. So if you go over like that, you can just grab your tweezers and just peel a couple of them off. And it doesn't leave a mark on your paper, on your cardstock. And that was on black. So if it's gonna mark and look funny, it'll be on black. And it was fine. So I am working on getting my photos down. This is my last little sped up section. This is where I bring it all together. So that's my Easy Runner Grand. I'm still having issues with that. As much as I love the ability of having lots of tape like that, jury's out on whether I'm going to continue with that one. So here I'm adding my photos. So I'm adding them where I drew that line originally. So you don't even need to rub that line out. You can't see it. So now I'm going to add some foam behind here. So I just go to my little foam box. This is my foam offcuts box or tray. I make these trays. If you are curious how I make them, they're so easy and they're so helpful to have. in order to keep your desk neat and tidy. There is a video. If you have a look at the video of the small one with the red checks, that one is more simplified and straightforward. If you feel like you would like to make something like that. Now, this is where it all comes to fruition. Is that what we call it? So these leaves that I'm putting on now, they've got the embossing powder on them. So they are shiny, but they're the same color tone. And I'm just adding them on so they look, see how they're popping off the page? I absolutely loved how this looked. I didn't add, I'm so sorry, my dog's barking, someone must have pulled up out the front. Hopefully my family can tame that dog pretty quickly so I can keep going. Okay, so I'm just using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to put this down. Yes, I'm standing corrected, and I am using it for a lot of stuff. I will probably be sticking with my art glitter glue long term, but it's definitely a good backup to have. So as you can see here, now you can see the difference between the stamps and the 3D effect. Now when I put those leaves on, I don't know if you noticed this, but I've only glued just the base where it's near the photos. I will come back and glue them, and I'll glue them all down. Okay, this is where it gets really hard when you're videoing. This is something that I'm struggling with. I use my TV a lot so I can see if it's straight, but I just knew this was not going on straight. These stickers have got a little bit of time. A little bit, not a lot. But see, I can tell there it's just not straight. Because I can't lean forward, otherwise my head's going to be in the shot. It's difficult to get things lined up nice and straight. However, and it's also because these are drop letters, so you've got to line up the black letter, not the silver letter, and it's a little difficult. So that's why I've turned it on its side, and I'm using my T-square ruler to line them all up. Now, as you can see, I absolutely still loving my wax paper. This is the best idea that I have ever seen and taken away from YouTube. I absolutely love it. Now, and I'm still using the very first piece that I ever peeled off. I just keep reusing it over and over and over. So here's where, see how having the clear wax paper, you can move it around and sort of figure out where you want to put things. It's really, really handy. So I am adding my lettering on, and then I add a little bit of, what do I add? Now I've already done the splatters. I did those before I put the photos on. I'm not, and I've said this before, I'm not massive with the splatters. Okay, I'm very much, I like to have control when it comes to my mixed media. I know that's an oxymoron. Stick with me. Oh, geez, that's crazy. But I like to sort of, if I'm going to put spots down, I put spots down, yeah, so that's why I'm not a huge splatter all over the place person. Sometimes I do it, but to be honest, yeah, not a huge fan. Now, I'm putting this down. You can see the word with is underneath that leaf. Now, it looks a little bit hard to see on here, but in real life, you can totally see the word. You can completely see straight through it. It's perfect. So this is where I go through and add the glue to glue these down, so obviously they're not going to fall off. And I actually did my journaling on this page in silver pen. Sometimes I like to use black to make the journaling stand out. Sometimes I like it to be about the photos, the story, the artwork. This particular page what I wanted to make stand out was all the different stamping and the embossed, not embossed, no, embossing. Yeah, I've lost my marbles now. Gee whiz. So if you've stuck around this long, I hope you like it. I hope you'll give it a try. And I seriously appreciate each and every one of you. And if you could get one person to come over, one of your friends to come on over and have a look at my page, maybe subscribe, maybe like it, give me some feedback, something they'd maybe like to see a little bit more of or a little less of, that would be amazing. And I'll be back with more videos later in the week. I'm still trying to get a video up pretty much every day. The weekend is where I don't really put a lot up. During the week is when I get them all up there. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will chat to you again soon. Thanks so much. Bye.